I'm off the deep end, watch as I dive in. I'll never hit the ground. We're far from the shallows now, people, because we're back again. Yeah, you just saw us. We're back, but we're back. Yes. Today we are going to see another movie. Today it is Aquaman. And this movie has been a long time coming once again, but this has probably been a little bit less of a long time coming. People aren't exactly clamoring for Aquaman movies. They were the most we've ever gotten for an Aquaman movie was a joke in Entourage. And for the most part, Aquaman has kind of been turned into a joke character. The only people who really seem to actually care about this is our friend Matthew at work, who just constantly brings up how Aquaman is basically a god, which he is. But it's still funny to make fun. But it's still fun to make fun of the fact that that out of all of the Justice League, even the literal normal guy, the Aquaman is probably the most hilariously underpowered. He was to the point that when Robot Chicken made a DC special, the first time they did the DC special anyway, the entire first episode was devoted to jokes about Aquaman. Yeah, so Aquaman has not exactly been a big deal, and so when we hear that people are like, I wanted a serious Aquaman movie, what the fuck were you expecting? So now we're all these years later, finally somebody's taking them on, and it's Jason Momoa. Yes, Jason Momoa, known for Game of Thrones and a few other things, I'm sure, but Conan the Barbarian. Well, the Conan reboot. That shitty Conan reboot that nobody saw. Yeah. Anyway, but yes, Jason Momoa is taking on the role of Aquaman. He has already been seen prominently in his role as Aquaman in last year's Justice League, which some people saw him as the highlight of the movie, other people saw him as sort of one of the things that's very wrong with the movie. We found him very funny in the movie. Yeah, he seemed very charming, and charismatic enough, and honestly, I was more worried about his SNL appearance than this. And then we have James Wan taking on a well-known horror director who's recently branched out with Furious 7, is now taking the reins. Essentially, Furious 7 was a really, really good movie. We were doing a review of that, but we lost the footage was damaged and lost and all that stuff, so we're never going to release that. But yep. James Wan did an incredible job on Fast and Furious 7, which it no doubt led to this. Especially since he was hired almost immediately after it was released. And if we had a stomach for horror, we would probably have seen his other movies like Saw, Insidious, and The Conjuring. Yeah. The Conjuring. So, but in the long run, James Wan he is probably a big magnet for the success of this movie, just simply because his devoted fan base in China has already led to this being the #1 Warner Brothers production opening in China. Yeah. So this movie is getting a sequel. It could do completely horrible numbers this weekend, but it would still get a sequel just because of the numbers it's pulling in China. It is probably going to be. It's already kind of a big deal that it's made so much money overseas, but now it's here today, and we got a big cast backing up Jason Momoa now. We've got Amber Heard taking on the role of Mira. We have Nicole Kidman playing Atlanta, Aquaman's mother. We have Willem Dafoe in this movie. Willem Dafoe jumping ship from Marvel onto a DC property as essentially Arthur Curry's mentor. One of James Wan's favorites, Patrick Wilson, is taking on the role of Ocean Master. And this is just all leading up. Now, we don't know what's going to go on with all this. There could be references and Easter eggs to Justice League. For all we know, it's just going to be like Iron Man 3, where it's just like, hey, weren't you doing that Justice League stuff? Yeah. All right, let's make the rest of this movie. Yeah, we don't know where this is going to go. We don't know how this is going to connect with Justice League or the DCEU, or if they're even going to connect to anything else, because up until just before Justice League, they were ready to sink this ship and restart the whole thing with just keeping Wonder Woman and whatever worked from this and Shazam. with these numbers, they're probably going to keep Jason Momoa as Aquaman. We'll see what happens with this, honestly, but overall, this is going to be an interesting little trip. We've heard good things. A lot of people have been talking about how it's big and dumb and awesome. Yeah. So that's kind of what we want to hear. So yeah. I don't know. You got anything else? I got nothing else. Okay, then this is gonna be a bit of a short one. So we'll see you after the show. Yep. All right, guys, we're out, and that was a good time. Yeah, great time. So let's talk a bit about that because there's a bit to unpack. James Wan needs to continue to do movies at this scale because he's fucking amazing at it. This whole movie is just nothing but amazingly unique, cool-looking camera movements and huge, big CGI battles. So, by the way, I bet James Wan, I can really tell that James Wan really loves Lord of the Rings and Star Wars. You get a lot of cool imagery and spectacle, and it's just amazing to behold. And there's a lot of moments in this movie where I thought to myself, how does this not look completely ridiculous? The thing is, this is a movie that knows just how stupid it is. It's like, okay, we know we're the fish guy. We're the movie about the fish guy. We know that we cast a guy who basically looks like. We know we cast a guy who basically looks like that stupid dark and gritty reimagining that they did for the character a long time ago. We know that we are doing all kinds of stupid things, so let's own it. And so they do. And so what do we get from that? We get things like an octopus playing the drums. We get Aquaman riding a seahorse into battle. We get Dolph Lundgren also riding a seahorse into battle. We get comic costumes so accurate to the comics that it's almost uncanny, and it's amazing. We get Willem Dafoe we get a de-aged Willem Dafoe looking creepy, not because the de-aging technology wasn't great, but because he's still Willem Dafoe. We have all of this amazing stuff going on, and this movie is just amazing to look at because it owns just how weird and crazy this whole thing is. It is Lord of the Rings meets Avatar in all of the best ways. And to the point that they even got John Rhys Davies in a cameo in the middle of a scene that could not be more Helm's Deep if it tried. Now, Jason Momoa fucking killed it as Aquaman this time around. He's pulling off every bit of charm he can. He's funny, he's likable, he has the physicality down to a T necessary to play this character. Which is interesting because there's a lot of people out there who, because they saw him in Game of Thrones, don't fully understand that he can speak English. Yeah, he is American born, guys. Amber Heard was a great addition to this with Mira. However, there's a lot of retcons with the first time we saw them in Justice League and now, to kind of make it feel like that scene in Justice League didn't really happen. But there's dialogue suggesting that, yeah, this takes place after Justice League. I mean, when it comes down to it, I feel personally when it comes down to those two, I feel like the whole love story between the two of them feels a little tacked on in the end, but maybe that's just me. I mean, they have chemistry and it's okay. It just feels like the love story wasn't branched out as much. It was kind of branched out here, and it was only kind of selectively branched out when they felt they needed to put it in. Yeah, it's there. Dolph Lundgren, he's in this movie. It's fun. It's fun to see Dolph Lundgren with a dyed ginger head of hair and beard riding around on a seahorse in big Greek armor. Willem Dafoe is pretty good with his character. It's pretty interesting to see him go from Green Goblin to this, and then still but it's still Willem Dafoe, so he's still kind of creepy no matter what. Honestly, there were points where I was just like, I wonder if they tried to cast him as Jafar. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, Willem Dafoe he's doing the mentor thing, he's doing the political plane, he's doing the political plane that I'm working for this guy, but I'm really working for this guy angle. He's doing all that, and he's clearly having a bit of fun with it.
Patrick Wilson is a great-ish villain.
He's there, and he's got a motive. And though I think that they're kind of trying to pull a Killmonger on him, where they were just like, no, guys, the villain is right. He's just trying to push it a little. He's just going for the wrong method, and I'm with you on that. I mean, that's the big part of what Killmonger was to a lot of people.
The problem is Killmonger kind of had a lot of the chutzpah to back it up, and up with Michael B. Jordan, and there was a lot of other stuff about Killmonger's character where he was like, where he sees this and he thinks that the surface world needs it, and he sees that our world needs help, whereas Patrick Wilson, as Ocean Master, he just sees the world as the surface as destruction and a way that's dooming the planet, and he just wants to take everybody out and become the dominant species altogether.
But overall, he plays the character he plays Orm with just enough of the theatricality necessary for a movie like this.
You got to play it a little cartoony this time. With this particular source material, you got to play it up a little cartoony and get a little hammy.
Particularly when it's a movie like this, where we've got melodramatic dialogue and situations. We have got characters screaming their name in the middle of it, like, I am Aquaman! All that kind of stuff. They're Ocean Master, all that stuff. They're floating around. It's basically James Wan taking everything he learned from Fast and the Furious and throwing it onto Aquaman. Because Fast and the Furious is basically comic book movies it's basically movie versions of comic books without the comic book attached to it. So throw it up. So if anything, that style lends itself perfectly to comic book movies, which is kind of weird that Justin Lin and F. Gary Gray have not been asked to adapt comic book movies, unless you count F. Gary Gray getting to do the new Men in Black movie.
And then we have a second villain this time around, Black Manta, and it's kind of underused.
He's there, but he's kind of there for one. But he's kind of set up, thrown in for one scene, and then thrown out, and then literally thrown out of the movie.
Yeah.
And for a while, you just kind of think he's coming back, right? Because that's Aquaman's arch enemy right there.
Yeah. So it's kind of Black Manta was kind of used, but I guess wasn't kind of used a little too sparingly. But I'm pretty sure they're just saving him for the sequel.
Yeah. I mean, in this particular story, Ocean Master needs to be the focus, and the fact that we got it focused enough as it is, it's good. I think one of my biggest little criticisms of the movie is that it goes over, that it kind of feels long. I don't know.
It kind of meanders in places. It's a world. It's kind of a globe-trotting movie where they're going around just searching for this trident, but they kind of meander. But there's certain spots where it feels like they're meandering a little bit.
I mean, in a lot of ways, it just feels like things are going a little too long at certain points. I'm not even saying that the pacing's weird. It's just like the movie feels like there's a lot to it, which I guess is good. It's an epic. It's supposed to be some kind of epic, even if it's just a melodramatic epic.
It is definitely, but it's definitely something to be watched and enjoyed. You don't necessarily have to. It's not necessarily something that you're going to be thinking about for days on end afterwards, but and it's probably the weakest of the comic book movies we've seen this year. But not to say that's bad. That it's bad.
Because in the end, this still averages out pretty good. It's definitely better than Jurassic World was earlier. The Jurassic World skyscraper were earlier this year.
Yeah.
And one more note I would like to throw in. That Skylar Grey song they put in the credits is fantastic. I don't know why they're not pushing this as the big epic action movie single, which we really need more of nowadays.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's get more of that. So yeah, let's get more of that.
Yeah. But
let's face it, guys. Aquaman is big. It is dumb. It is fun.
It is
beginning to end.
It is everything a comic book movie should and it has to be.
It gives you everything you want, and it's everything that hopefully some people wanted out of an Aquaman movie. Hopefully. I don't know. And if you're like, I wanted to see a 100% serious Aquaman movie, who are you and what character do you think you're looking at?
But I guess that's it, guys, because we're almost home, so...
As always, be sure to like and subscribe, and be sure to tune in next time when driver didn't pick the car picked the driver. Bye.
Bye.